Okay, my name is Bailey.
I'm Yale.
Nolly. Tim Jackson.
Gus.
And we are Slice. Okay. What we stand for sanitation and cleanliness, and our goal is to give our customers what they want and a good product. And our slogan is soap, slice, germs, dies, which is on the packaging. Visual library, we set it up kind of like a commercial because we're targeting adults mostly. So I have examples of what we don't want and and this is like if they were to buy anything else, why they shouldn't buy it because it's pricey. And then this is our product. And that tells what it is and what it does.
So our brand is generally marketed towards people that are 20 and over, adults, and we sell our primary product, which is called the Soap Slicer. It's right here. You'll hear more about it in a second. Towards people who just generally don't like mess, or are germaphobes, or don't want to deal with the mess associated with either bar soaps that can leave slimy residues, or liquid soaps that can be squirted around and cause a mess around the sink area. And there's no other thing that creates bar slices of soaps, but there are liquid dispensers, so that's who we compare to, and our primary competitors are companies like Bobrick, Gojo, Dial, and Impact, who have their prices about $30 to $10. Alright, the Soap Slicer. What does it do, Ian?
The Soap Slicer is a machine we created that slices gives you slices of individual soaps for single uses. It works with a little wire that goes through here. There's soap on the inside, and the soap pushes forward. We cut the soap and then it falls out at the bottom into your hands, and so you have non-shared bar soap at the end of the point of it. It helps the customers in the way that it gives you a clean bar soap, so you don't have to share with a bunch of strangers if that's what you're doing. And also, it doesn't leave the slimy stuff in the little bar soap holder that most people have.
So here's our first iteration of our very initial prototype.
So this is our first model. Pretty rough around the edges. It had these rubber tubes that would pull the soap forward, which we ended up changing. The blade was pretty open. It had a hard hinge here. Instead of a wire, we had a blade initially. Yeah, I think that's.
Alright, so we showed this product to our market, and they said it was pretty ugly, to be honest, at first. So it said, people said that it needed to be more aesthetically pleasing, primarily, and also, I don't know if we can go back, those elastic bands were really hard to push back, so we changed it to rubber for our second prototype that we also showed to people.
So second, we sort of had a second one. It was mainly a model in between the first two. It was the same as the first one, except as we have these tracks here for the soap, the plate that pushes it, we have one here, one on the top, and one on the other side. And that was the main change that we made to it. So not a full model, but something between there.
And it was kind of similar in our market feedback. People said it needed to be still more aesthetically pleasing and also smaller, to be a more compact thing that could be used easier in your home. And our final product is this.
What we have here. So one of our interviews actually said that we should have the wood look nice and maybe stainers, and so we got this black wood. It's much thinner wood. The wood before was about maybe like half an inch long. It's a lot smaller. The first one is probably a larger shoebox size. And so we have the rubber bands. We have the wire to cut the soap, which is safer for children. This panel does not come out, so there's no hinge. It can be dangerous, or blade, and the tracks get it from the top.
Alright, so labs. We did 3 labs, not including the final lab, and in the first lab, we were trying to find how much large NaOH we should use. So we tested the ratio of lard to NaOH and then the depth of the depression by putting a scupula and then dropping it from a height of 5 centimeters. So there was a lot of uncertainty with that, but we just had to factor that in because we could not think of a better way to measure the hardness of that. And in the second lab, we just did pretty much the opposite, and we just put like more liquids, in this case grapeseed oil, and we found that it made softer soap. So we determined that more liquids means it will be softer, more solids means it will be hard. And in our third lab, we had one outlying result because we tested a bar of soap that we had made in the previous labs, but if we take that result out, then the rest of our results are conclusive, and more water will make the pH of the soap go closer to neutrality, which is a pH of 7, and a lower pH also means that it will have reduced cleaning abilities because it is more acidic and there's less sodium hydroxide to clean your hands with. And the soap was only half of our product because our main focus was the box. So we didn't actually need to make it look exceptionally pretty, but we did have lavender scent and just a kind of purple kind of lavender color. And from the labs we did find out that a good ratio for soft sliceable soap would be 2 to 1 lard to NaOH, so we would have 30 grams of lard and 15 milliliters of NaOH. And this was our final product from the soap, and then that's it in the packaging. But the packaging would only be for refills, because when we put the soap in the box, it'll come with soap and then you just buy refills, which we'll talk about.
For the design of the dispenser, we wanted to mirror the design of the refill soap. So we put it onto our larger box and we added information to the sides. We got feedback from the first time we presented that our original target demographic was not really what we wanted it to be. It wouldn't sell as well as we thought it would. So factoring this in, we made changes to our original and we made it more sleek and more targeted to the 20 middle-aged people who want a well-designed, well-innovated product that they could keep in their bathrooms, either in their dorms or in their apartments. I think we also got feedback from people that we've interviewed saying that they could see a younger demographic using this, so we factored that all into our packaging to make it targeted towards a younger audience. It's here, but here's pictures of it too. This is our icon logo, and this is part of our packaging. And these are the sort of little blurbs to draw you into the product and explain sort of what it is. Right, left.
Alright, financials. So, when determining a price for the soap dispenser, it was kind of tricky because going through so many iterations, I kind of lost track of what I paid to build this. So the first thing we looked at is competitive pricing to our market, and we realized that there was no way we could price something like this near the plastic dispensers of liquid soaps, because those just don't need the build quality that something like this does to cut bar soap. So we ended up, based on competitive Purell and liquid soap dispensers that are made of plastic, we priced it around $16 to $18. And then I took this product out into the market and interviewed some people to see what people were actually willing to pay for this product. I think everyone was willing to pay for $20 worth, to pay $20 for the machine. One person said they would not pay $21. Two people said they would not pay $22, which ended up being our maximum profit there. And then slowly as you went down, people paid less and less and less, and no one was willing to pay over $28 for the machine. So then we had to look at how much it costs to actually build the thing, and based on everything that I used to build this, the machine ended up costing almost $29. And we decided to use a PlayStation style strategy applied to price this, but I'll talk about that in just 1 second. The price of the soap brick is actually quite big. We made it in one large brick, and it was about twice as long as this. It's been cut because we were testing the cutting abilities of our machine. And it ended up coming out to about $9 for the one massive brick, which we could probably sell in 2 halves. So you would get 2 soap refills for every one you bought. And now I'm going to talk about the PlayStation pricing. So our fixed costs for building this were extremely high. They were $1,851 for fixed cost building this because there was a MIG welder involved in welding tracks to the metal plate here. There was circle saws required to cut the wood. I needed an 18-hole drill, lots of things to make this thing work. So we had an extremely high fixed costs, and then these are the variable costs going down, so as we kept going, we kept spending more. And then the red dots are the soap cutter income, so not profit, but income. And then the green dots are the soap bar income. And so what we decided was that we would actually lose around $4 for every one of these we sold. But by making money off these soap refills, we would then eventually make a profit in the end. And it turns out, assuming we sell 10 units a month, 10 units a month of each, 10 units a month of this, and then every month after we sell 10 units of these, we would sell 10 units of this. We would make a profit after 6 months, assuming we price this at $10 and we price this at $22. And yeah, that's the next price. And so I talked about the fixed costs a little bit. They were extremely high because of MIG welder is of course around $1,000. The circle saw is around $200. A really nice drill is around $100. So our fixed costs began adding up quickly. And then when we started looking at fixed costs for the soap, it began adding up even more. Like you don't think about it, but a blender can cost up to $200. And so the fixed costs just ended up being really expensive, but we were able to overcome that with competitive pricing. And the future.
So where we plan to go is for the design of the dispenser. We want it to be smaller, more efficient, safer, and I think you can guess, better looking. We want to make the rubber bands not visible, and we want to basically make it a highly producible, well-distributed product.
And I want to say something on polytetrafluoride. It's a long word, but it's a nonstick coating that goes on most nonstick pans, and we would assume that if we coated the wire and the pusher and the front of the machine in it, it would allow soap to slide out much easier from the machine. It does work, but it can be, sometimes you might have to jiggle it or something to get the soap out, just because the soap likes to stick to the wood surface because there's a lot of friction. So it's a very frictionless surface.
We also plan to contact some industrial design firms to get this thing manufactured in a more efficient and aesthetically pleasing way. So hopefully that could really reduce our variable costs, the cost of making it, and also it could make it a lot more aesthetically pleasing so that people would possibly buy it for more.
So then we had to think about if this were to actually become a full-scale company, what would we need and what would it cost to keep the business running. So in terms of fixed costs, we need, of course, a large lab space to be able to produce these and the soap on a continuous rate. We need laborers at the scale that we probably want to go to. We need around 20 people working because this took me around 1 weekend to build by myself. And so if we had more people working, we could clearly produce more, faster, easier. We would need water, of course. We would need electricity, and I looked up around how much this would cost based on a 20,000 square foot warehouse. And so projected fixed costs are, of course, extremely high, but that is assuming you have a product that you can continue producing at a high rate and continue selling at a high rate. And then there would, of course, be projected variable costs that do not include the making more and more of these. We would, of course, need to be able to advertise your business, and so we thought we would probably be advertising on like the posters that you see on the highway. We would probably do TV advertising, which is inherently extremely expensive. Internet advertising is the most cheap option, which is $50 a month for a Google Space ad for ads on Google, which is probably the best option because most people use Google, and yeah. Thank you for watching our presentation.
So I think what we'll do is we'll just take a second and get a little bit of feedback from the judges, particularly from Larry and Jonathan, and then we'll kind of open it up for questions. I thought you guys did a good job overall. I thought that having kind of a vision from the beginning helped you guys a lot in terms of streamlining the process and knowing where you were working towards. There's a pretty good division of labor. You know, it's pretty clear that Navi took the lead on this kind of idea, and then Gus and Leo worked pretty hard in the lab. Jackson handled the marketing, a lot of documentation, and Bailey and Ian were integral to kind of the branding and the marketing and making it look beautiful. So there's a good division of labor and good communication that happened in this group. It's really good. I want to see a demo. I think that's pretty important.
I am going to remove the rubber bands from the plate because one of the issues that we did have was that these rubber bands are extremely strong. So what Gabe told us to look at, or what we learned, and what I ended up researching, was something called a constant force spring, which we could put in the back, which puts out the same amount of pressure. Which puts out the same amount of pressure no matter how far you put the spring. So I have it in backwards because of the needles. Alright. There we go. So
Yay.
and this cover, of course, would just be slid in here.
So Megan, Jonathan, any thoughts you'd like to add?
Did you consider maybe some kind of a screw, a nut and bolt kind of thing that might?
So what we first initially had, like we drew it on the whiteboard when we first thought of this. We had springs at the back, and then when I started looking at springs, of course I didn't know about constant force springs, but they were extremely hard to compress, and so that didn't really work out. And then we went to surgical tubing, and that was also extremely tight. So then I found these industrial rubber bands, and that seemed like the best option at the time. But like an extending screw actually might be a good idea. That might involve like a motor though. Yeah.
No, I'm just thinking
Yeah.
like a nut and bolt that
Yeah.
as you screw it,
Yeah.
that pulls the back part of it more and more forward and
Yeah.
We
control.
chose rubber bands because it keeps constant pressure on the plate that pushes
So,
the soap forward,
it'll
so
be-
that the the user, the homeowner,
Yeah,
doesn't
so
have to
adjust anything. So
adjust. It would just kind of slide forward. And so far that's it.
and they were also quite cheap.
And where might I buy one? Where am I gonna go to buy one?
This would probably be a product that you would find in Target or any goods store like that, or like Walmart, because that's where you normally find competitively priced soap dispensers, and you, of course, you might even find this at Home Depot, but like that's more or less likely. It's more just a place. It's more like a family item. Feedback.
So, obviously your strategy for sales is dependent on getting somebody to get into your product, so you have the dispenser
Yeah.
that you're going to put people on. This is a great idea, I'm a germaphobe, this is what I want
Yeah.
in my house. And then you want to keep them coming back for the soap, and that's where you're going to make your money.
Yeah.
You mentioned a couple times kind of that you had to adjust the density of the soap to make it soft enough that you could slice it easily.
Yeah.
Have you thought about or looked at other soaps that are out there, and were they a potential threat to your ability to have people only buy refills from you?
Well, the first thing I did is I went around my home
Mhm.
and I looked at soaps, and I knew that it was not going to be easy to cut any soap, and I started grabbing them, and like some of them were actually like rock solid, and I knew, and I tried to put them in the machine, they did not cut, and then I went to Target really quick and just looked at a couple, and most bar soaps that are out there are actually really hard and really stiff, and that's just kind of like, and that's the best way to make them work. So this finding a balance is, it's still a solid and it's still pretty rigid, but it's soft enough that our wire will go through.
Do you think about how you might work that into your marketing?
Well, we market it with, our dispenser would come with a package of our soap, and we do advertise that it is specially formulated and it has a chemical structure that really is specific to our design and would help us sell our soap as opposed to other people's soap. Plus the fit of the soap was really important into how
Like
as to how you can fit it into the machine, because most soaps wouldn't do well with a flat back.
Yeah,
Most
they-
are sort of round. This one we don't need to do the rounding for health because we put it in the machine and not.
To sum up, it is possible that other bar soaps could be put in here, but our soap, we
Works the
designed it
best.
so that it just works the best and that it was just the best option for people to buy.
Something I'm thinking about, and I didn't think about it until Megan had mentioned some kind of screw or something on the back end pushing it through. I'm thinking like a deodorant bottle, right?
Yeah.
Has a little thing that you screw up. Like
Um,
if you have a bar of soap and it's literally just you push it out and there's something to slice at the end. That would decrease the cost of that.
Yeah, one of the goals though I had was that you would never have to fiddle with that. Like, all you would do, well, there is soap in here right now, so all you would do is you would pull the wire up, push it down. That would be your cut, and then this thing would automatically push it forward for you. You push it forward again, like possibly if we had like a nut, bolt, and screw like that, and with a motor possibly, that like possibly sense like how far it was getting away. But that would probably increase cost. We don't want that. But yeah, like a deodorant stick version would probably decrease cost, and that actually probably be.
So this is like single-use soap, right?
Yeah, like you would use up this little widget.
So I'll say this about myself. Like I know that I no longer use like bars of soap.
Yeah.
But when I did, I always hated it when it got to the end because that last little piece, it'll stick to the wall or it'll stick to the ground. It's hard to pick up. It breaks. It crumbles. There's. How are you? Did you try washing with that soap and see what it
Actually,
feels like to have that little thing
Gus
kind of?
did, like,
Yeah.
Gus did, so.
We would hopefully try to get these slices a little bit thinner, just so
Yeah.
they would wash away like pretty quickly. Unfortunately, these are pretty thick, so they don't go away immediately. You have to wash your hands for a little while, but we would definitely, if we were to really be totally invested in this product, we would make it so that it was, this
Slice.
cutting line is right up against the wall so that the slices are super.
You know those Listerine little things that you stick in your mouth, and it's just a little thin sheet, and that gets your breath fresh, make you fresh, it's kind of like that.
So like say like you put it on your arm and you start to wash. Like
Well,
is
this
it gone in a
one-
second?
this
Or you
is-
like start slapping all over
We
your
would
body?
probably have to make a different model for like body soap and like hand soap, because
Yeah, this
obviously what you're
Oh,
gonna
this is
wash-
like hand use soap.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because
yeah,
like
yeah.
wash.
Oh, okay, then that makes sense. Then. All right.
I just have another technical question, so my hands are all
Right.
grubby because I just
Yeah.
changed my motor oil, and now I've got oily, grubby hands, and I'm touching those two
Yeah,
parts.
this is kind of unavoidable unless we did something kind of like the, if you've ever seen those automatic soap dispensers at the movies, and there's a little sensor, and you put your hand in here and it would slice it for you. That was the only real way to solve that, because even if you have those liquid soap dispensers that are plastic, you still gotta touch it to get the soap out. But mostly with, isn't it like soap practice to like rinse, lather, rinse, repeat? Isn't that like common soap practice? So hopefully you've got most of these. I don't know what common, SpongeBob taught me that. So, yeah, we would hope that you
I
learned
think
your lesson.
that's actually kind of what we're trying to avoid, because in the scenario where you didn't have one of these, you'd be touching your actual bar of soap. And we took a lot of the interviews that we had with our target demographic, the germaphobes said that they don't want other people touching the physical soap, and they don't want other people getting their germs and their dirt and their motor oil on their soap or on their dispensers. And I think this, obviously, if we were to move to a larger scale, we would have it automated, or we would have different kinds of different ways to slice the soap other than manually.
Yeah.
But I think this is a lot
It's more
more.
like a concept, like, it can definitely go further, but it's a working model, and, like, one of the big problems that I tried, so, like, I hate this myself, if you've ever used bar soap, and you have like a little bar soap holder, you get it all wet, and you put it in there, it soaks in the water, and then it gets mushy, and it like totally falls apart when you grab it. That's totally disgusting, so that's one of the things that this thing was really designed to solve.
Yeah, you guys go for it.
I have a couple. So is that kind of mainly for like public places, or do you have any?
We initially designed it towards marketing towards families and homes. Many of our interviews said that this could definitely be found in like a restaurant competing with like the liquid bar soap dispensers that you find in restaurants. And so it could definitely be found there, but it's mainly targeted towards like a family home usage.
Would it just sit on a counter?
Like many of our target demographics said, if we were to truly produce this, we would of course have to make it smaller, so it really fit in your bathroom. And I didn't really show this, but it's got these two little feet, and you rest those over the counter so that you can pull the lever all the way down.
And if you have to use two hands, how are you gonna like if you're a germaphobe, you're gonna like fall down?
There was, I'm just gonna explain what just saying you can go. We had a blade in here initially that you could do with one hand.
Okay.
But A, it cut me really bad. B, the soap would get stuck to the blade, and that was a big issue, so that's the main reason why we exchanged a wire. And the unfortunate part about the wire is it's flimsy, and you have to use two hands to pull it. It's fishing line, so it is thick, but you can't just like one-hand it.
If we were to use a wire, in our initial design, we had, we planned that it would be elevated up here, and then there would be a little
Tray to catch it.
Yeah, a little tray / slide thing, which is still a possibility.
Yeah.
Do that pretty easily, but it would add to the cost for now. And this is just what we have.
Also, I think automated would,
Also, this is,
that's very far in the future.
Oh wait, I think Noah's first.
yeah,
No,
So it kind of has to do with what Maya said a little bit, but one problem that I could see with this, and I don't know if you guys have thought of this, is that this is kind of marketed to bathrooms and places where multiple people are going to be using the same bathroom, and in those kind of places, there's not a lot of space to really put things. Like, I don't know, I share a bathroom, and there's not a lot of places where I could kind of fit that, but that's just me.
Again, like, we would want to make this smaller, and if it was elevated and it didn't have to sit off the edge of a counter, that would probably help because you could push it back like behind, next to the back of your sink, and hopefully that would allow you to just have it sitting there. Like, I have a fan sitting in my bathroom, it takes off a lot of space, and this thing is definitely smaller than that. So there definitely are things that in your bathroom that take up as much space as this probably. It's one of those things you just kind of work into the room. Hopefully.
Also, we could make it potentially wall mountable, so you
Yeah.
just stick it on the wall.
How much do you say the soap itself cost?
For a brick, which is this thick and twice as long as these, because these have been cut down a lot, it would cost $10, and you get two of these bricks, which are about twice as long as these are, and so that would hopefully last a month or two.
And that's the brick right there.
This is
No,
this is
on the desk, is that the side?
this is the wrapping concept. There's actually not soap in here because it took a lot of stuff to make this one brick. So we ended up making one brick, but we still wanted to have packaging for it designed. So this is what it would look like. As you can see, it's actually pretty similar to the height of the bricks, and pretty similar to the weight. It's just a bit short, but yeah, that's what it would look like.
And have you considered possibly making the soap brick smaller so that
Yes,
they use it more quickly and have to buy?
We also considered that, but then we'd obviously price it less, so we feel like it would work out the same. And we'd also, that would also allow us, if we did that, to cut this machine like in half. So that's a very, like, that is something we thought of, but we kind of wanted it to be like a big usage thing when we first built it. So that's just kind of how it turned out, and you can fit in the facility here. So you don't have to mess with it for very long.
John?
Oh, John.
Just, one great presentation, and I do appreciate the plan, so thank you for that. 3 observations to think about, not really posed as questions, but observations, so sorry about that. First, in the market, clearly you've got the dynamic of liquid soap and bar soap, and the benefit of the XY axis exercise is to see how the market works.
Yeah.
And so, a thought exercise on one axis, why do people get liquid soap? It's cheaper. You go to the hotels, the cheap hotels have liquid soap, the expensive hotels have bar soap. So there's some perception of cheapness and convenience and quality. And then you want to populate all the options, where does liquid soap fit, where does a big fat piece of bar soap fit, where does little soap fit? And then you're somewhere in that mix, right? But it shows you how the market's working. second observation, that then can drive you towards what is your proposition. What I'm hearing basically is, the bar experience with liquid convenience
Yeah.
or cost, right? I mean, you're trying to, it's a classic best of both worlds play. You're getting all the advantages of this and the things that you like about that in the market. So when you do the market exercise, which I'm glad you did, once you have a view of how the market works, push them on it. Why do they value bar soap? Why do they value liquid soap? What problem are you solving that's in between those things? And then the third observation is in terms of cost. Generally, when you introduce a more expensive means of delivery, like you did, you have to amortize it over multiple usages, right? Whether it be Nintendo, I also think cell phone plans, right? You get a really expensive phone, but you gotta sign up for a 3-year contract. So in your financial analysis, what is that crossover point?
It's
Well, crossover point for your unit, I'm asking for the financial analysis from the customer standpoint,
oh,
right? So
so when are they saving money?
exactly. So if you take a look at the scenario of the liquid soap, we're giving you a bar soap experience with liquid soap cost structure and convenience. So after 6 months versus paying for this big fat piece of bar that you're wasting all the time, this thing pays for itself, right? I mean, so you're trying to find the economic crossover point from the customer's point of view. Your financials are fine, but when you're selling to somebody, you gotta figure out their financials, right? When do they start saving money?
I think potentially we could get, if we got this manufactured by a professional company, it would look a lot better and people would probably buy it for more. So we could kind of swap our plan and make it so that you're buying the machine and then the soap refills would be cheaper, so then that would produce that payoff for the customer.
So it's like a long-term investment.
Yeah.
It's kind of being a helpful idea. Actually, I think Jackson, we kind of were going like this, and Jackson.
You kind of.
Okay, do you still have one?
Yeah, so if your slice is so small right here with your, why did you choose to make the dispenser so big?
Because the initial plan was, as I told you, these were this big and they were about this long. So we were planning to fit a large amount of bar soap into one thing, and then over the course of time, the basic idea was, since it's soap, you have so much soap in there, you wouldn't have to fiddle with it very often. You wouldn't have to refill it often at all. So that was kind of why we made it so big, so you could have long term, it would just sit there. You wouldn't have to fiddle with it for as long as possible.
Right now, since it's small, we can get to saturate the dispenser on small.
Yeah, if I had known that the slices were gonna get this one, I would of course made it shorter, and then I would cut it probably in half. I'm gonna go with this. Mitch.
Alright, so, do you guys have a way of, hand sanitizer, you press it, is that kind of like an ideal amount that you need for use? Do you have like a measurement, or is that something you plan on doing like a little ruler, or
Yeah, as I said before,
automatics?
we would try to,
This is a bit big, right?
Yeah, I was about to say,
Yeah.
'cause that's a bit big, and then like Martin was talking about, you end up with too
Yeah.
much, and you just throw away
I think
soap or-
generally we would just test it out and just figure out exactly how it goes to the,
Yeah, we would have to fiddle with lengths, thicknesses, of course, we could also just cut these bars, we could of course just cut these bars in half, and then you have this broken in half, and then you have half the size of soap, but you would have to fiddle with, the exact ideal amounts.
Mhm.
I think Alex, actually, okay, Alex still in my,
I just have a question, so when you guys said you did a lab on changing the hardness of the soap, when you made it softer, does that affect the cleaning power of the soap at all?
It didn't really affect the cleaning power, more or less as it affected the duration you could use that cleaning power. If it was a bit harder, it would last a bit longer in your hands, but if it was really soft, it just kind of melts away in the water. So we had to find a balance between hardness and softness to be able to.
that also plays into the slice size, if it were softer, it would just wash out quicker, you could have it, the slice be bigger, but,
Now we'll go to Jackson then.
It's just a suggestion, but maybe if you wanted to get rid of the whole action of cutting the soap, you could maybe have these
bars of soap already split into the desired amount, and maybe that you could like press a lever or something and have just that amount in your hand?
That was actually our original vision. We just kind of evolved. I'm not really sure how it evolved from that into this, but we talked about it in a group, and we're just like, some people wanted different ideas, and slowly but surely it evolved into the machine that could cut it. But our initial idea was just to sell the slides like as is, with like wax paper between them, so you could just pull out the slide, use it. Then the next idea came having a little box to dispense the slides, and then eventually it evolved into a box that cuts the slides. So yeah.
I think also the main reason we didn't do that is because it was really hard to get those really thin slices pre-made originally. So we just said, all right, because we kind of had to make this anyway to do that. So we just decided that making this be the product.
Well, I was just, I really like the differentiation. It makes the consumer think, oh, this is a different presentation than I've seen before. I would probably think this would be better in a store level where you can cut your own size of soap and pay for the pound or ounce or whatever. That might give a consumer a little more value.
Yeah.
As opposed to being at home, I can understand that. But my point's going to be, is they spend all this money on the box and your first bar of soap. And if the later bars of soap are going to be really cheap to be able to bring the consumer's overall price down, what's going to stop the consumer from just going to the store and buying the cheap soap instead of the box?
Hopefully. Well, the goal, target audience of this thing is against using bar soap. The people I interviewed, at least, they didn't like the mess associated with the bar soap. So that was kind of where this machine came out of, and that's the hope, that they want the mess-free bar soap, and that's why they would go out to purchase this, to get a mess-free bar soap experience, and that's what draws them to this machine instead of just buying the soap.
We market our soap along with our product, and they would be right next to each other. They'd be sold together as a package, as the idea, as the product. And I think since our soap is specially formulated and specially shaped and all these things that make it so unique and make it so compatible with our product, they'd realize maybe they will buy the cheap soap one time and try and use it, but I think that we marketed it well enough that we hope people will understand that our soap is what's going to work best with our product.
Yeah. So I was wondering, you had you talked about how maybe you'd refine the look of it and make that a little bit nicer. It seems like it's a pretty expensive product. It does really cool things, like it's neat, it's innovative. It's something that somebody who has a nice bathroom, who maybe has nice gas, would want to have like this cool little kind of kitschy thing to showcase. And you were talking about maybe selling it at Walmart and Target and stuff. I mean, when I go to those stores, I'm usually looking for deals and trying to find the cheapest things I can. And it's all about a mindset, right? When I walk into Walmart or Target, it's like, I want to get the cheap stuff and I want to get out of there. When I walk into like some cute little boutique store in Fremont or something, it's like, even if I'm maybe not thinking in my front of my mind, I'm probably thinking in my subconscious, like, oh, things are kind of expensive in the store, I'm probably going to pay more money for things in the store because they're cool and nice and unique or whatever. So you might consider where it would be most successful to sell it.
The reason I thought it would sell well in Target is just because it's really rough right now. If it was refined, I think it would sell better in those boutique stores, but just right now, this doesn't look like something you'd find in a boutique store.
Also for the, it would be kind of weird, I think, to have the soap refills in a little boutique store, because I don't think typically people go to boutique stores to get these refills. They would go to like, you know, a bigger store like Walmart or whatever. But it is interesting.
Is it fair to say that the changes that you made to the physical properties of the soap to make it work in your device would make it even worse as a bar soap for those people who didn't like messy bar soaps?
It works really good in the machine. However, since we had to make it softer to work for the machine and to be the single-use slices, which it works in the single-use slices, like it's fine like this, but as this, I feel like it would work worse as a just individual.
But it's still less messy.
Yeah.
Right, I'm just saying, so for people who just said, oh, I'll just buy the soap, they might be like, oh, this is horrible.
Yeah. It's not meant to be like.
We can do that too. They don't have to.
All right, last question.
Can I?
Yeah.
did you guys test out how long it takes to finish a bar of soap so then you can calculate like how often?
Unfortunately, the numbers,
We didn't formulate the.
based on like how large it was and just like how big these slices were, we assumed like it would produce like a good number of use, and we assumed like 1 to 2 months for like a family using this would probably use this. Probably a person who's alone would probably take a little bit more, like 4 months to use it one total.
Also, what we were talking about is how we could eventually vary the, like, width of the,
Yeah.
thickness of the soap slides, so that would vary, which change how many uses there are.
Yeah.
All right, thank you guys.